Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Crystal and I'm here to educate you on all things real estate and home ownership, home selling, whatever has to do with real estate. So in this video today, I'm going to educate you on the new $418 million NAR lawsuit and settlement. If you haven't been under a rock, and especially if you've been here, thinking about purchasing a home or selling a home, I'm sure that you've, have heard about it and how it will affect buyers, sellers, agents moving forward in our future transactions or home sales. So before we get started, just as a note or a disclaimer, I want to let you know that this lawsuit is settled, but as litigation is still ongoing, it is not yet fully approved. They are projecting around summer, like mid-July, that these rules will actually go into effect. So right now, we're not practicing up under this, but we're getting prepared to practice this way. Let's talk about what the basis of the lawsuit is about and why it was actually filed. So what happened was, basically, a bunch of sellers got together to go after big box real estate firms. These firms are like your Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Remax, anything that you can think of nationally or internationally that has a very high revenue over a certain amount. There was a certain amount that was marked, but I don't have that to list, and it's really not important. So the seller complaints are that the agents took advantage of proceeds by not informing them that commissions are actually negotiable. So all in all, this lawsuit changes two things that will be different from how real estate commissions are currently presented to buyers and sellers. So let's start with number one. Number one is NAR will eliminate or prohibit any requirement that the listing brokers or sellers must make offers of compensation to buyer brokers. So this ruling in the lawsuit will change what we as agents can see in the MLS regarding commission amounts offered to buyers agents from sellers. When buyers are searching for homes to tour, with the realtor, of course, the realtor goes to the MLS or the multiple listing services where every agent under that board lists homes for sale. On the MLS sheet, an agent can view all the information regarding that listing with a section dedicated to the commission amount that will be paid to the buyer's agent. So we're able to go and pull a sheet on whatever house you send us, 123 Parkway Drive, and we're able to see the square footage, all of the information that pertains to that house, including how much we will be paid to actually help you purchase that home. What this rule is doing is taking that away for us. Agents will no longer have access to this information on the MLS by the way of the lawsuit. This does offer less discrimination when it comes to agents offering all homes to buyers rather than homes based off of commission amounts. For example, a buyer sends an agent a home that they really like with a commission offering of 2%, but an agent pushes to show the listing with 3% instead. You can pretty much see how that works. So with that transparency, we don't even have that transparency of seeing. It leaves less room to discriminate on what houses are shown to buyers. So for agents, we will also have to go a step further rather than just, pulling up our system and seeing that on the property sheet. We're going to actually have to, call the agents and negotiate or either find out what our commission will be. So that will be the step further for us, and that's how this is affecting us. So now let's look at the second change. With this change, buyer's agency agreements, which is the employment agreement between the buyer and the agent. When you reach out to an agent at some point in the sale or the purchase of your home, you're going to have to sign a buyer's agency agreement that buyer, is representing you in this transaction. So where the rule change comes in is this must be signed before even touring a home. Once you meet an agent and you decide if that agent is a great fit for you, you're going to immediately go under buyer's agency agreements before you can even tour a home. So this changes the current practice of agents and clients being able to wait to sign buyer's agency agreement up until the time they actually write an offer on a home. Meaning, we could go search for homes without a buyer's agency agreement. We can tour homes. We can tour as many homes as we want to currently and not be under a signed buyer's agency agreement, but have a verbal agreement or understanding that we're going to, you're going to work with me and I'm going to work with you until you close on the home. And they have totally changed this, where buyer's agency agreements have to be signed before even touring a home, whereas you had up until the time you wrote an offer to actually sign a buyer's agency agreement. And that's a video that I'm going to do later that I have coming, because I want to show you how a buyer's agency agreement works and why it's important to know what you're signing before you actually sign on to a buyer's agency agreement. With this new change, you will meet and interview an agent, and if you are a great fit, you will then sign a buyer's agency agreement to exclusively work with that agent until you close. So this must be signed before touring homes, as I said. So keep that in mind when you're reaching out to agents when this comes into effect. So let's skip down to number 3. So in both the listing agreement and the buyer's agency agreement, a direct amount or percentage of the commission must be stated. So this cannot be an open-ended statement. For example, I'll pay you 5 days after the house sells. You can't do that. The agreement must state such language as specifically like 6% of the total home sale or a flat fee of, say, $8,000. That has to be put in your buyer's agency agreement, as well as the seller agency, the exclusive right to list agreement, because we can't go on a whim, because that can totally crash your deal if you get into a commission situation or negotiation when you're under contract. Like, you don't want to do that. So what they're saying is all of that has to be stated and said and negotiated and confirmed up front. And I can dig that. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, but that's how it was before, but we no longer have the transparency to see how much we will be paid. Buyers will more than likely have to chip in on some type of commission, because sellers now know, I don't have to carry the whole 6%. I don't have to cover it all. So let the buyer cover some. So that's going to affect you as a buyer or buyers with your savings. How much are you going to be able to afford to pay commission and closing costs? Because if you're thinking about buying a house and you're coming, in July and thereafter, like, that's something that you're going to have to factor in to what you're bringing to the table to close. Just because sellers are more aware that they can negotiate their commissions. So number 4, this lawsuit also prohibits any outside deals to compensate that deviates from the commission listed in the listing and buyer's agency agreements. So there can be no other payments other than what is stated in either one of those agreements. No other payments. You can't do any outside deals or anything like, hey, I'm going to give you a bonus later, outside of this. No. An agent can only get paid what is stated in either one of those agreements. One of the most known statements is that buyers do not pay commissions. It is free to utilize a buyer's agent in a transaction because the seller pays commission. Moving forward, this will no longer be true, because that's where the transparency comes in, because a seller now knows that they're able to negotiate their commission and they're probably not sticking with just that 6%. So they may ask the buyer to chip in. So we can no longer represent that, hey, it's free to use a buyer's agent because the sellers pay, because that's what this lawsuit is all about. So buyers will now be subject to possibly, chip in or pay some commissions, and that will be negotiated